Welcome to Rebel Speak. We are in Isaiah Meanderings, and we are meandering over chapter 4 and right into chapter 5, which I think is a powerful, just another Isaiah chapter full of powerful imagery. So you've got this, Isaiah walks into the center of town and he says he's going to sing a song. Now I will sing a song for the one I love about his vineyard. So he's trying to get their attention. He has something he's trying to get the people in all of their apathy and all of their self-love to hear. Right, there's a word from Yahweh. He's trying to get spoken and get heard. And he's going to try to do it today by singing a song. Okay. My beloved has a vineyard on a rich and fertile hill. I want you to hear all the language of, the ground. It's rich and fertile. It's good for growth. He plowed the land. I want you to hear the intimacy. He plowed the land, cleared its stones, and planted it with choice vines. He's calling the people of Israel choice vines. Everything about you is set up for thriving. In the middle, he built a watchtower, protection, and carved a wine press in the nearby rocks. Expectation of great wine. Then he waited for a harvest of sweet grapes, and now it twists. Okay. He did everything. He put in great vines, and good earth and all that. But the grapes that grew were wild and sour. I love this word wild here because they look like there's grapes that just kind of grow wild and they are very bitter to taste. And no one's ever done anything for them. They're scrappy, right? They're just scrappy vines. And the vines that were so beautifully cultivated are behaving like scrappy vines. They're not behaving like vines that were loved and cared for. Why did my vineyard give me wild grapes when I expected sweet ones? This is just one of my very favorite verses in Scripture. Why did my vineyard give me wild grapes? Why are these grapes behaving as if they've had no love and care, as if they've had no investment, when I expected them to look like grapes that were well loved, to act like grapes that were well loved? Now this is what I'm going to do to my vineyard. I will tear down its fences. Yahweh put the fences there. Yahweh can take the fences away. Everything they have has been given to them, and their gratitude is zero. And I think this is important to ask ourselves, how deep is our gratitude for what we have? Because everything we have has been given to us. This earth has been given to us. It's a gift. And in this moment of reckoning, Yahweh says this, I will tear down its fences and let it be destroyed, because without the fences, they are destroyed. Without the fences, destruction is theirs. So, okay, I'm taking out the fences and you will be destroyed. I will break down its walls, the walls that Yahweh built. I'm taking out the walls and let the animals trample it. Why are the walls there? The walls are there so animals won't trample you. But now the walls are going and you will be trampled indeed. Like, you are sitting in a situation and circumstance that my love and my protection and my guidance has put you in. And there's no gratitude. There's no thinking. There's no honor. There's no wondering. There's no fear. This is a deep sense of the fear of the Lord. That there's something about who God is and all that God's gifted. The goodness of God has us behaving in a way that honors that goodness. That's really at the root of the fear of the Lord. The goodness of God, the kindness, the exceptional goodness and kindness has us living in a way that honors that exceptional goodness and kindness, but not these people. So the wall that I built to protect them will be gone. And what happens when there's no wall? Well, wild animals trample the vineyard. I will make it a wild place. I will not prune the vines or hoe the ground. I will let it be overgrown with briars and thorns. And it's almost like, you want to live like wild grapes? I will let you live like, this is the life of wild grapes. This is what being a wild grape looks like and lives like, all alone, in some little bit of land, fighting it out, trying to eke out its own existence. Fine, you will be in the middle of briars and thorns. What do? They override you, right? They grow in a way that crushes you. There's no place for you to grow little wild grapes in the midst of briars and thorns, because they'll overtake you and you will be overtaken by them. I will command the clouds to drop no more rain on my vineyard. I am the giver of the rain you have. I am the giver of all that you have. And your orientation to me is entirely wrong. And now, Isaiah is going to be more overt here now. This is the story of the Lord, Yahweh's people. They are the vineyard and Yahweh the Almighty. They are the vineyard of Yahweh the Almighty. Israel and Judah are his pleasant garden. Is there irony there? These are the ones to whom he's committed. He's in this relationship. Yahweh reached out to Abraham. Yahweh has identified with this people. They are to be his pleasant garden. Israel and Judah are his pleasant garden. They belong to him. He expected them to yield a crop of justice. Okay, here we're going to have a play on words. That Mishpat is justice or good laws, right? A land of good laws, fair laws, well-intentioned law. Mishpat, and tzedek, which is righteousness. Okay, so we're going to have these two words. He expected them to yield a crop of justice, mishpat, but instead he found blood pouring out. Like, okay, yeah, that's not good laws. Where people are suffering and bleeding out, right? The nation's bleeding out. It's not good. He expected to find righteousness, tzedek, but instead he heard cries. Now, the scripture is going to go and say cries of oppression, but I think it's just cries of misery. When there's not righteousness in the land, when people don't care how they treat one another, when we use the laws to benefit a few and not have systems that are as fair and as well-balanced, as far-reaching as possible, we have cries and misery in the land. The land is bleeding out. We say, oh my gosh, this is a God of destruction. No, the destruction is already in the land. The destruction is already upon them. The destruction is what's breaking God's heart in this passage. Who they've allowed and chosen to be, such that they're living like wild grapes when they were well-cultivated grapes. Has God, beyond God's self, except nothing can get beyond God's self, but God has a long-term plan here, definitely. But God's in the midst of God will not be codependent in their vile sin. Destruction is certain for you who buy up property. Okay, we're going to talk about, he's just mentioned righteousness, justice and righteousness. And now we know we're living in this is a wealthy time of Judah's history. And there's, God's going to make some, Isaiah speaking on behalf of God, is going to make some very acute accusations, very acute. Destruction is certain for you who buy up property upon property, so others have no place to live. Your selfishness is so very obvious. Your homes are built on great estates, so you can be alone in the land. You've bought up all the land, so your home and your land, your property is huge. But the Lord Yahweh Almighty has sealed your awful fate. You thought you could buy up land in a way that you'd be isolated from those average, deplorable people, get them away from me. I want to live ensconced in my own beauty of acquisition. Here's the problem. Yahweh is greater than you. You cannot get away from Yahweh's justice. No matter how rich or privileged you are, you will be held in contempt of humanity by Yahweh himself. He sealed your awful fate. With my own ears, I heard him say, this is Isaiah speaking. Here's a quote that he heard. Many beautiful homes will stand deserted. You want to be alone? You'll be so alone, there'll be emptiness there. The owner's dead or gone, running for their life or dead already. That's what that's going to look like. That's what that covetous nature in you, that's where it's taking you. 10 acres of vineyard will not produce even 6 gallons of wine. You right now are living on land you've taken from other people, and you are getting rich off the productivity of that land. And so now that land's going to lose its capacity to be productive. 10 measures of seed will yield only 1 measure of grain. Land has been taken that doesn't belong. It's been bought up. The vision, sometimes I know I'm repeating, but it's so important we understand. The vision is that all have land and all are able to live off the produce of the land. But through whatever circumstances, these wealthy have come and bought up the land such that others do not have access to the means, to the productivity, to food itself. Destruction is certain for you. Now we're going to see another image. These are just, to me, such powerful images, because not only are they selfish and buying up their land and thinking they're going to get wealthy when God himself's at war with them, but now we're going to hear about just the non-seriousness, if you will, of their lives. Destruction is certain for you who get up early to begin long drinking bouts that last late into the night. Party, party, party. You furnish lovely music. Okay, you've made this world that's not real. You think it's real. You think you've purchased it. You think you've acquired it. And you don't know that there's a God beyond you that's at war with your greed, an extravagance that is not mindful of others. You don't know that there's a God at war with you in that place. You furnish lovely music and wine at your grand parties. Why, there's the harp and lyres, tambourines and flutes. They're all so superb, so perfect, so perfectly well done. But you never, here is such one of these great twist moments. Here you are in all your lavish, everything's just lovely. There's one problem. You never think about Yahweh or notice what he is doing. You do not have right relationship with the one that has provided you everything you have. You don't think you're accountable to one greater than yourself, and you are. So I will send my people into exile, far away, because they do not know me. And this word knowing me is that when you know me, you live like one who knows me, right? I know my husband. There's so many things I don't know because I know that makes him crazy. There's just things I don't do. It makes him crazy. Part of my loving him is honoring him, right? Honoring him not in the abstract, but in the definitive. Like, hey, part of his loving me is honoring me in ways that truly speak to my heart. And here is Yahweh speaking to people that are taking up and using up he gave this little world for them to share, and they're not sharing. They're greedy and they're clustering their wealth all together as if there is no Yahweh. They're living as if they do not, because they do not know him. They do not know him, and they're living in that ignorance, and that ignorance has made them fools because they think they are truly beyond the law. But all of our lives are accountable to the one who has gifted us our life. The great and honored among them will starve, and the common will die of thirst. That's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. The privileged are going to live without their privilege. The privilege will go away. And the least amongst you will also be suffering. This is what happens when God withdraws God's righteous hand of production. Now we have a couple of destruction is certain statements. I'm going to only review one of them, working on this meandering a bit. So I'm going to pick up at verse 18. Destruction is certain for those who drag their sins behind them, tied with cords of falsehood. God is saying to them right here, there's a way that you are so deeply dishonest. You're so deeply dishonest that you lie to yourself. You're dragging your sin as if it doesn't matter when your sin really, really matters. And it's through lies that you do this. They even mock the Holy One of Israel and say, hurry up and do something. Like, come on, you say that you have all these rules. Quick, show us what you can do. We want to see what you have planned. They think that Yahweh's never going to speak, that all the threats, that you're going to be in trouble, that you need to be righteous are a joke. And the whole time, Yahweh's heard them. Destruction is certain for those who say that evil is good and good is evil, that dark is light and light is dark, that bitter is sweet and sweet is bitter. You're lying. And destruction is certain for you as liars. Destruction is certain for those who think they are wise and consider themselves to be clever. Your vanity has you on the path of ruin. Your vanity has you stupid. Now there's another destruction statement, but I'm jumping down to the very end here. God has called the nations from far away to come and deal with this land that he once so intimately protected. He's called these nations, and they come. And here's the very last few verses. Verse 29, roaring like lions, they will pounce on their prey. You're going to be caught up in something disastrous that's bigger than you, and you're not going to know what to do. They will seize my people and carry them off into captivity, and no one will be there to rescue them. No one. Again and again and again, Yahweh has been there to rescue them. No more. I am no more involved in this sick relationship with you. The enemy nations will growl over their victims like the roaring of the sea. You're going to meet travesty. And then this last sentence, I think, is so poignant. A cloud of darkness and sorrow will hover over Israel. Never God's intention, this scenario. The clouds will blot out the light. I'm going to leave it at that. There they are. The light is blotted out. Their hard-heartedness and their pride has led them to a path of destruction that is greater than they. But God's plan is that through that, they will awaken to the goodness of God, God's mercy, God's love. But it will be a long road because they've chosen a long road. In their hardness of heart, they've chosen a long road. And God's not afraid of long roads. He's walked with humanity for a long time. And in this Old Testament, he's chosen one people for himself. And he is committed to that people, that they return to the righteousness, to looking like the good grapes that they were created to be. God bless you.